We are live. Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever the hell you are in the world, and welcome to Sidetrack Live. Solo. I'm on my own. It's just me and you. So, I'm expecting you to get into the comments of this video, and it was a little bit last minute as well, so we'll see how many people actually jump on with us. But I was supposed to be over on M Cubed with our young Harris, but apparently he has magic blood. He went about 5 hours ago to give blood, and he has still not come back. So apparently they want more of him. I think it's magical hair growing blood. It's blood that literally grows hair, and they're going to like transfuse it into people like me and Stormy and Matt, and then they will be able to grow hair. I think that's what it is. But as I was set up ready to go on M Cubed, and then he decided we couldn't, I thought I would come on and have a chat with you guys anyway. So as we're chatting, please get into the comments, have any questions, blah, blah, blah. But I do have something I did want to talk about, and that is Star Wars and Star Trek. Are they going small? Now, I'll explain what I mean. Star Trek, they're not planning to do any cinema movies. They are planning to do the straight to Paramount Plus movies. Apparently one every other year, except we are probably going to get 2 in the next 2 years because of the strikes and because of the delays to Section 31. It'll probably push. Section 131 has basically been pushed back, but then trying not to push back the Picard movie. So that'll be sandwiched a little bit. But they have no intention, currently at least, of pushing them to cinema release. Now, obviously, that could change because the merger is going through. Or somebody might come in and buy them. They might get a decent investment of cash and change their minds. But at the moment, that is the plan. And they've got like a 5-year Star Trek plan. So they're not thinking about going back to the cinema, which I can't help but think is a shame because, I mean, it was the cinematic movies that really reignited the Star Trek franchise. If it wasn't for the motion picture being a success, the voyage home being a big success, a surprise success. Who knew a film about movies, about whales even, would be so good? Make any sense? But if it wasn't for those movies being successful, we wouldn't have got the Next Generation. We wouldn't have got Deep Space Nine, and we wouldn't have got all the new Trek. So soon there'll be just 2 more CW shows. Yeah. I haven't watched Echo yet. I was going to watch it tonight, but then Harris said about doing this, so he's let me down. But I'm going to watch it tomorrow instead. I might start watching it tonight after this live, actually, after I get off for you guys. But anyway, hey Dave, hey Bob, how you doing? I tell you about talk about the CW really quickly. I'm watching Superman and Lois at the moment. My God, that show's good. Tell you what I like about the CW, and it still feels like a CW show. I don't get me wrong, it still feels like The Flash and stuff. But I've just finished the 2nd season. It's really good. I mean, it's not quite, doesn't have quite the budget of shows, you know, but Warner Brothers, I think I think Warner Brothers do better with the TV stuff than they do with the movies a lot of the time. They, hey Sarah, how you doing? Oh man, you're going to make me say a word. Kal-El de Bald. I don't know what that is. Kal-El. Oh, Kal-El de Bald. Yeah. I know. Bob, you're going to confuse me. I'm live, mate. So your comments actually like will make me. I will focus on them. So thanks for that. So let me just a second because I'm lagging a touch, and I think I know why. That'll be better. If I can come back now. So yeah, I'm really enjoying Star Wars. Anyway, so Star Trek is staying on the small screen. Now they spend a lot of money on those episodes. You know, they do spend over $100 million per season of Strange New Worlds, and particularly Picard season 3 was like $120 million or something. So that's near movie expenditure, and I would say we get more TV out of it. So I'm happy. But they're not going back to the cinema. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I don't think Star Trek is the mammoth of sci-fi that it used to be. I think that they know a Star Trek movie will probably not make a lot of money. I think actually, though, there's an element of that as well, that just cinema doesn't make a lot of money. So that's probably why, and it's probably not a stupid idea, to be honest. It's probably quite sensible. But then Star Wars, which is, whether you call it fantasy or science fiction, I've always considered it science fiction myself, even though I do get the people that say it's more fantasy, have announced now that they're doing a Grogu and Mandalorian movie. The last season of The Mandalorian had good bits. Don't get me wrong, it had good bits, but on the whole, was crap. It had some really strange bits in it, and it had some bits in it that made, that just were laughably stupid, to be honest. Like when the dragon comes and eats that kid, and then a couple of days later spits it out in its nest, and the kid's still fine. Just random bits. Ashoka was better, but that had some really random bits in it as well. And to be honest, the Book of Boba Fett, Ming-Na Wen was amazing in it. She's amazing in everything. But again, it had some random bits in it. It had some bits in it that you just think, sword and sorcery. So yeah, Trek Gate's with us. Trek and Wars going small, Gate going nowhere, literally. I can't say about Stargate, but you're wrong. But I can't say why. Sorry. Hopefully I'll be able to say soon. So yes, some of the Star Wars stuff hasn't really made sense. We are getting another season of Mandalorian and Grogu. And Star Wars is in flux. I think a bit like Star Trek, really. They realized Star Wars, and the same with Marvel, that they were going the wrong way with things. They were making stuff that people just, let's not be honest. Let's be honest, even. They were making stuff that were just people didn't like. So about a year ago, they had a big reset and they had a big thing. They cancelled one trilogy that was planned. They keep pushing back the Taika Waititi movie. I don't think that's cancelled at the moment, but it's very much on the back burner. This Mandalorian Grogu movie is going to be directed and at least partly produced by Jon Favreau, which is a good thing. I think that might be, anyway, Star Wars fans in to tell me. I think that's what was announced as the Dave Filoni movie. Is now this. There's a new Rey movie, I believe, coming out, or being developed, which is going to see her trying to rebuild the Jedi Order. Smaller can be better. Just saying that to make myself feel better. You're not wrong, to be fair. And we'll come back to that. Remind me about that, Yorkshire. We'll come back to that in a second. No, let's not come back to it. Simpler can be better. And sometimes less money can be better. Sometimes, a lot of the time, particularly with franchises, I think they are constantly trying to outdo the last movie or the last project, the last thing. So they're constantly trying to go, okay, well, we have to go bigger, better. You think about the Matrix trilogy. That's one that really fell victim to this, that they had to do something because it was so unique. The original movie was so different. We hadn't seen anything before. The creators were like, we've got to go bigger. And I will always argue and say, you don't need to go bigger. Oh, stop doing that. Sorry, I'm hitting the wrong button. I've already given the man a ring, Tin Man and Bogey. Yeah. So by this constant battle of trying to go bigger and better and more means that either the storylines get complicated or a simple storyline becomes convoluted because they are trying to make it seem complicated. And a lot of the time, the storylines get really confusing. Think about Ocean's 11. All right, watch Ocean's 11. Very clever movie, completely made sense. A reasonably simple storyline, even though you have the big twist at the end, but it was done cleverly. And relatively simply, anybody can explain to me Ocean's 12. You're a better man than me, because I've watched it more than once and I cannot tell you what happens in that film. It made no sense. Or at least why a big chunks of that movie were necessary. I've suddenly realised, it's a while since I've seen it, so I apologise, I can't remember the details. But I realised at the time, wait, if they just hadn't have done this thing at the start, they wouldn't have had to do the rest of the movie. 90% of the movie was completely irrelevant if they just didn't do whatever it was at the start. Because they had to do all the big twisty plot thing, because they had to outdo Ocean's 11. And by trying to be clever, they made themselves look stupid. That's the problem with a lot of franchise movies. Marvel is a big victim of this, because if you think about Iron Man, the concept is relatively simple. It's a redemption story for one, but it's not too big. The villains aren't too big. It's manageable sort of thing. But because Marvel has constantly had to outdo itself, we then get things like the Marvels and Miss Marvel and all these other projects that start to get very confusing. The villains are gods, and then the heroes become godlike. You think about the last Avengers movie. If Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, had turned up sooner, that story's done. It's over. Avengers Assemble? No. Avengers call Captain Marvel because she can just come and twat, thingy in the head. She was too powerful. The villains and the stories got too big, but also then they got complicated. Doctor Strange 2. Complicated. If they'd have cut out about 45 minutes of that movie, it would have been a much better film. The whole zombie Doctor Strange thing, forget it. The whole third eye thing, no. Just cut it down, because the best bit of that movie is when the Scarlet Witch attacks the other Avengers. That was excellent. That was really, really good. That should have been the core of that movie. But they had so much icing and so much fluff around it, it washes out all the good. And that's a big problem with Marvel. Always trying to outdo themselves. They need to strip back and they need to simplify. Star Wars, I think, is also a victim of this. They're constantly trying to recapture how people feel about the original trilogy. And it's not possible. You can't. They're classics. It's like saying, I don't know, I'm going to do Pride and Prejudice 2, the sequel. And hopefully people will respect it as much as the original. They're not going to. It's got to be an expansion or extension onto that. And hopefully, you do good films. Every franchise is the victim of this. That instead of trying to just do a good movie on its own, they have to do a movie that expands upon or outdoes the previous. And it's not possible. Too many streaming services. Yeah. I think that is going to... It is already correcting itself in a way. I saw a thing about Amazon the other day. One of you guys shared it with me. Actually, it was the interview with the Mike Wright and the head of Amazon as well, talking about MGM Plus and how Disney have always had this long-term plan. And you guys know this, I've told you this a million times. Have this long-term plan of becoming a hub for other services, so they'll have other sub-channels, sort of thing. And MGM Plus is quite a popular one. So for the cost of like £5 a month, you get a lot of movies. And it's really, to be fair, I've got MGM Plus. I got Stargate on it. It's got loads of films on there as well. And it is a good service. I quite like it. It's one of the ones, it's like that and Paramount are actually worth having. I got rid of Disney at the moment. Don't watch it. I do still watch Netflix. But those are the two services. But bundles are going to be the future. So it'll be, you spend £10 on Netflix, or you can spend £10, or you can spend £15 and it'll be Netflix and Max, or £20 and it'll be Netflix, Max, and probably Paramount Plus in a bundle. So you basically, it's cheaper if you have all three, sort of thing, like £17.50 or something, you get all three. So they're trying to get you to have all three, or you can have them individually for a tenner. That's going to be the future streaming. We probably will see a few streaming services merge. I think MGM and Lionsgate are already kind of doing that at the moment. They're sort of merging those two services. Amazon will do that. I think Amazon will have 2 or 3 sort of big sub channels. MGM Plus, Freevee, obviously, because they're different types of services. They'll have the Amazon Prime, and they'll have a couple of other stars and things like that. But they will have to go. Yeah, that's 100%. We can't all afford them. We can't afford them. There's a cost of living crisis, god damn it. And we think we're watching our pennies. And if the pennies watch, if you look after the pennies, the pounds will look after themselves. It's an old saying, but it's true. And at the end of the day, you're not going to watch all these services. And if anybody's got any sense, and it's the nice thing about streaming services in a way, if we could be bothered to do it, is that you can turn them on and turn them off. You can go into something, book it for a month, cancel it immediately. I do this with Apple. Never pay for Apple long term. Have it for a month, binge it, turn it off. Wait 6 months, turn it on again. Binge it, turn it off. That's the way. But you can't really do that with other things because they put barriers up to stop you doing it. Excuse me. But you can with streaming services, or at least at the moment you can. This is one of the reasons why Netflix has deals here in the UK. I don't know about you guys, but here in the UK, they have deals with things like I have Sky TV, and because I have Sky TV, I get Netflix free. So it's built into the price, really. I don't get it for free. Sky are paying Netflix. They still get their money. The price on Sky goes up a little bit, and you don't even notice. But because it's free, I can't turn it off. And there's no point in me turning it off because I've got Sky. So I've already got the minimum package on Sky. I don't want any more. That's how they do it. And Paramount's the same thing. If I want Sky Cinema here, I get Paramount for free. Don't do that either because the Sky Cinema costs a fortune. And there's nothing on it. All the movies are on the stream. Sky Cinema used to be really good here in the UK. It used to have all the new movies on it. Now it doesn't because all the new Disney movies go to Disney. All the new Paramount movies go to, you know what I mean? So the Sky Cinema is crap. God, there's some terrible things on there. It's all Sky movies. I'm not I keep hitting the wrong button. Here we go. Need AMC without using a VPN to watch all the Walking Dead spin-offs. Yeah, they're not available here yet. I'm not a big fan of The Walking Dead. I don't like zombie movies. I say, give me a rifle and enough ammunition. I'll sort out the zombie issue. No bother. But Sarah, it feels like we've gone full circle back to being like cable. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's because they're starting to put adverts on them. They're starting to go back to the original thing of, we need another revenue stream. Adverts. Makes sense. Zomboard. Yeah, I find them boring. I quite like that new one with the fungus thing that was out, based on the game. I forgot what it was. Among Us. I forget what it's called. That was quite good. It does feel like, and I don't know how you guys feel about this. Let me know. It does feel like though a lot of these franchises are waking up. It's took them about 3 years, but they've started to realize they're losing money. And I know people talk about Marvel fatigue and Star Wars fatigue and sci-fi fatigue and things. I have always said it's more about quality. They've made bad films because they tried to make too many, and they've made bad films. And I think Star Wars has had a similar problem. They were trying to do too much, and they were making money, and they went, let's make more. And particularly with Star Wars, they didn't seem to try to actually expand the universe. Everything was still on or based around Tatooine, 1 or 2 characters. And again, Star Wars seems to have figured that out now. So we are getting like a prequel movie, but a prequel movie that for me actually makes sense because it's going back to look at the birth of the Jedi Order. That sort of being developed alongside this new Rey movie, which is sort of the rebirth of the Jedi Order. I can see that those 2 projects are going to be interesting. Andor Series 2 is coming. The first season, it was very clever. I respected it. God, it was a slow burn. God, it really took. Yeah, you really has to. Yes, thank you, Last of Us. And you, Peter, well done. Last of Us. I think I liked that less than most people. I think most people really adored that series, and I just thought it was okay. Even my kids really liked it, actually. But with Star Wars, sort of, it does seem to be trying to expand the universe again now. So, like I say, we've got these looking into the Jedi, the birth and then rebirth of the Jedi. There's another movie. Apparently, there's another potential movie that's going to be. Oh, I just remember the clip was. It's going to explore a corner of the universe that we've never seen before and characters we've never seen before. Or was that one of the TV series? I forget. I'm not a big fan of Star Wars. But again, that seemed to me makes sense. They seem so focused on, and Star Trek is guilty of this as well, so focused on the characters that have been popular, they don't bother trying to expand the universe at all. And to be honest, Stargate is at risk of this. Hey, Hunderton. It's just me, sir. So if you got any questions, by the way, guys, get into the comments and I will answer them if I can. Don't ask me what I know about Stargate. I can't tell you, so don't ask. This Mandalorian and Grogu movie, I knew about this months ago. Somebody told me about this ages ago. I thought it was open. I thought it was known. Because I don't really follow Star Wars. So when this got announced yesterday, I was like, yeah, I know about that. I keep forgetting to tell Harris because he'd probably be interested, but I forgot. But anyway, never mind. But yeah, Star Trek is the same with this. How many Captain Kirks have we had now? Are we on about the 9th? We're not, but you know what I mean. We're on our 3rd Captain Kirk now. Why are they bringing Captain Kirk in Strange New Worlds? They're doing it because it's Captain Kirk. Even though in canon we know that Captain Kirk did not know Pike, and I think it mentions he's maybe met him once. In the episode Menagerie, though, it basically says he didn't know him. Spock was obsessed with trying to save his life, or letting him die, I think, wasn't it, actually? But Spock was obsessed because Spock's loyalty to him. But Kirk was kind of indifferent. But now, thanks to Strange New Worlds, Kirk knows Pike very well because Kirk keeps turning up. I keep joking and go, how are we going to do it next? He's going to go, I forgot my keys. I'm here for my keys. I forgot my wallet last time I was here. And he just keeps turning up. I'd love to see a Star Trek show not about Starfleet. That would be a nice way to expand the universe. I like the starships, though. I have to admit, I like the spaceships and I like the technology and everything. I know where you're coming from, but then I have to think of something really intelligent about that because, it would be, it would have to be something that was still interesting, something still sci-fi. If Harris knew, maybe I told him. Or maybe I just knew. I said when it was announced yesterday, I was surprised. I thought everyone knew, but oh well. Maybe they did. I hate it when they ignore canon, except to create another timeline. Do you really want to talk about other timelines? There's an argument at the moment that Strange New Worlds is actually a 3rd timeline, and that's why there's so much different. It's actually the only thing that makes sense. It's lazy writing. And this is the thing, again, as I think the movie makers of Star Wars, Marvel, everyone else, I think they are starting to wise up to the fact that they will lose hundreds of millions of dollars if they carry on the path they've gone. I think TV makers are doing the same. We don't want reboots. We don't like them. They almost never work. They only happen because they are easier, and they are easier than a continuation. If you do a continuation, you have to be clever. You have to explain with Stargate. I just did that SGU video about Stargate, and I'm saying, trying to explain to everyone that, look, it's not easy to restart Stargate. It's not going to be easy. It's going to have to take some thought. So one of the reasons why I think it's taken so long, it's difficult to do a continuation. Doing a reboot is a piece of piss. You have an original content there to no, John, but we will. Not at MGM, mates. There will be some MGM, but it's Amazon Prime and Amazon Video, but it will include MGM. Yeah, it's going to be several hundred. I'll come back to that. I forgot what I was saying. I've got to stop looking at the thing when I get on a rant, and I look at the comments on when I rant. But yeah, TV makers are wising up to the fact that we don't like reboots. The Battlestar Galactica is probably the only reboot that ever actually worked, and even that went off the rails towards the end, and had a big gap between the original series and the reboot. Every other time they've tried a reboot, it's not worked. In my opinion, soft reboots and continuations, they work. Star Trek worked because it was a continuation. Other series are the same. Stargate has to be the same. But it requires effort. It requires being clever. It requires doing a series that respects what came before. And you have to do loads of research as well, because you have to know what came before. This is one of the big reasons why it's so important that Brad Wright or somebody like that is involved in the new Stargate, because he knows the material. Otherwise, you have to basically go back and watch it all and make notes, or you're going to step on canon all the time, unintentionally, sort of thing, if you don't know the history. It's much, much easier to go, oh, that Star Trek case, so that's good, I like that. I'll just base a new show on that and crack on with it. It's easier. And you get a ready-made audience because you get to call it Stargate. But we don't like it. And it always fails. And they seem to have finally figured it out. The MGM layoffs. So it was announced today. Mike, whatever his name is the head, one of the main guys, basically Amazon Pictures. He's Jennifer Salke's boss. Did write a memo, and he's basically saying that, look, we're constantly looking at everything that's going on in the streaming service, everything that's going on in the world, and what our customers want, and we're constantly adapting to that. And because we're adapting and we're so proactive, we're sacking hundreds of you. That was basically what the memo said. Job losses at MGM has been coming for a while. They didn't actually really sack anyone. When Amazon took over, they didn't want any negative headlines. So they just let people go by not renewing their contracts. And a lot of people that were working at MGM were on short-term contracts. Apparently, it's quite common in studios like this to have quite a few people on short-term contracts. They bounce from contract to contract because they'll say they start working on a show to do, I don't know, the IT work for a new show or something, or they'll do the digital work on a new show or whatever. They don't actually work for MGM. They will sort of work for the show. So they'll just be on a contract during that show. And then if that show ends, they will quite regularly jump onto another show or whatever, but it's a new contract. So what MGM did was they just didn't do it. They just cancelled a lot of the contracts. They just didn't renew them. So they left a lot of people on. Doctor Who came back to Gone Forever. It was bigger than it ever was. Yeah, no, Doctor Who did, but that was like a continuation. So yeah, exactly like Star Trek had a continuation with a big gap. It is in a way because it's a different Doctor, isn't it? So it is plausible every time Doctor Who generates, it is a different, because the character is different. I mean, that's one of the big things they say, that he is different. He goes, oh, I'm not ginger. I've got my teeth. It is supposed to be a different character. There you go. So yeah, I must have heard. I was told by a source. God, it must have been 3 or 4 months ago. But then it's been rumored for a while. I think that's what the Filoni thing was. He said it because even back when the Filoni thing was announced, it was always said that it was going to bring together Mando, maybe Boba Fett, and a few other things, wasn't it? So yeah, fair enough. Maybe that's where I heard it. Problem is, I hear so many things through the different sources and people I speak to. Sometimes you can get a bit confused in the way you've heard things and the way you haven't. But anyway, or what you know and what you don't know sometimes. The other thing is, stuff changes so quickly in this industry. The movie and TV industry, I had no idea 2.5 years ago when I started Sidetrack and I first started talking to some of these people that work in the industry, I had no clue. They say none of them work anywhere more than sometimes just 6 months and they're gone. They're onto another studio. They bounce around so much. The people I speak to, almost all of them worked at MGM when I first started speaking to them. Not quite all of them, but most of them. Almost none of them do now. I only have 2 or 3 sources that work with MGM or Amazon. I'm hoping I'm not going to get a message at some point saying that they've been made redundant, but they might have done. But they now work all over the place, which is great for me because now I get to hear rumors from everywhere. Or they work for agencies doing work for them, or things which taps you into a different source of information. So, do you think Stargate will turn into Glee like Doctor Who did? I'm not going to touch that. But yeah, it could do. So that's brilliant. But I hear rumors about things, and I say I don't share everything I hear because sometimes it's just it's just talk. Or I'm not interested. If I hear stuff about Star Wars, generally I don't share it because I'm not that bothered. And when I have done videos about Star Wars, they don't do very well. So I try to concentrate on the things I think you guys want to hear. But if I'm excited, if I'm interested by something, I will share it. But it's amazing how quickly things change. I reported that there was going to be a Discworld movie. I actually Disney were even looking at doing it as an animation movie, and then they talk about live action, blah, blah, blah. It's been scrapped since. It changed so quickly, but it just very quietly got scrapped. If you Google it now, you'll see stories about it in the last few months about how Disney, they struggled to get the movie rights and all these other problems, which normally isn't a problem for Disney, but for some reason they really struggled with this. But I think it's mainly because Terry Pratchett just really didn't want them to do it, and he before he made it difficult. So and they're very hard to do. To be fair, his books are imaginative. Let's say that, but that was nailed on. Disney were doing it, and then they just weren't. Things like the A-Team and that reboot we're talking about, that idea has already changed about 3 times since I first talked about it, or got 8 or 9 months ago. It was initially just something executives thought like, oh, when after the strikes, we could do this. I want to have this universe. And then we'll go, oh, we can make it about AI. And then we could do something else. Oh, we can't really do it with the A-Team. We don't really own the rights. Well, it doesn't really fit in this new. It just changes constantly. So they don't. They partly do. So apparently they own some of the rights to Discworld, but they don't own all of them. But they're not doing it anyway. It's not happening. So, or at least not at the moment. It's been scrapped for now. How big a failure was Stargate Origins for the franchise? Do most even know it exists? To be honest, it was an experiment that was maybe like... I've always said that Stargate Origins was ill-conceived, mainly because they didn't go and knock on Netflix's door. And that was the mistake. MGM, maybe they just didn't realize what Netflix was becoming. But it was early. What was it? Was it 2017? 2016? Something like that? Origins? Somebody Google it for me, quick. It was more recent than you think. When I first thought about Origins, I thought, God, that was years ago. Hey, Carl, how you doing, sir? But it wasn't. It wasn't as long ago as you think. And yeah, it failed miserably because they had this idea of putting it on the internet. They thought that was the way. They thought they could have this Stargate command and people would log on and pay almost like a mini streaming service. And it was just ill-conceived. It was just a bad idea from the beginning. I completely see what they were thinking, but in hindsight is 2020, isn't it? It's like look back on it and go, oh, duh, well, of course it didn't work. But I honestly believe Netflix would have took MGM's hand off for that series. They'd have got more money, they'd have got more time to develop it, and we'd have got a much better project out of it. I think that could have been a series that could have worked. The problem with Origins was they didn't have any money, nothing, and it was rushed because of it. So they didn't develop it properly, and it just didn't work. That's one of those things. There's not one thing wrong with Stargate Origins. The whole thing was done badly, and from day one, the whole concept for me, again with 2020 hindsight, was ill-conceived. And as I say, that it screams Netflix. I honestly think Netflix would have given them serious money to develop that. It's perfect for them as well, because it would have been about 6 episodes. They could have explored 2 or 3 different things. We could have ended up getting Stargate. One thing I keep talking about is like a Stargate prequel series around the Big Finish. Is that a thing? I don't know what that is now. 2018. You see, it doesn't sound right, does it, Dave? When I looked it up and when it was actually produced, I couldn't believe how recent it was, because it feels like forever ago. But remember, it was in 2019. Brad Wright was asked to do the script for the pilot, end of 2019. So it was like they did Stargate Command. It didn't really work, but it must have just given them enough metadata or whatever to go, okay, this didn't work, but people were still interested. Even though we didn't advertise it, nobody knew it was there, and we didn't spend any money on this, people actually still wanted to do it. People still wanted this to succeed, sort of thing. So that gave them enough confidence to then go talk to Brad. Obviously, then COVID, and then Amazon, and then 2 years of delays. But it gave them the confidence. So we should be thankful for that at very least the failure of Catherine's origin story did lead into us almost getting what we actually want, which is a Brad Wright Stargate. Gender Mary, new subscriber. Thank you very much. Yeah. I don't think that's fair, John. I don't think Netflix would have done that. I think Netflix have shown with things like Stranger Things and all these other things that they've done, that Netflix love sci-fi. They desperately wanted to keep Star Trek. They paid money to Paramount to produce new Star Trek, even though it wasn't very good. And they love sci-fi, and they love sci-fi because people watch it over and over again. And I think if they'd have got the right people involved, basically they've got MGM involved and maybe got Brad Wright involved. Brad Wright was never really involved in Stargate Command. But if they got him involved, they could have done something brilliant, I think. I would have loved to have seen what they could have done. Guys, I'm being stupid. Big Finish is a relatively recent new episode of SG. I haven't finished any of them. But Big Finish Doctor Who episodes are brilliant, so I'm hopeful. Yet Big Finish Stargate is a thing. I don't know what Big Finish is. Am I missing something obvious? But I'm sure if in a minute my brain will catch up. Hey, congratulations! Well done. How much money are you giving everybody else? How much was it? Was it £1 million? Because then you can share the love, sis. Share the love. Harris, if you're home, let me know. I will send you a link. Oh, was it the fan fiction? Big Finish. Oh. Okay. I know what you mean. Let me just see if Harris wants to come and say hello. Because he will want to talk about Star Wars, because he is a Star Wars fan, because he is an idiot. No, he's not. I just don't get the love of Star Wars, if I'm 100% honest. I find it a bit boring. Done. Star Trek's better. We are going to do a Dax is in. Yeah, I do what you mean. Yeah, it's the audiobooks and things, isn't it? So where's my brain? Lost what I was saying. But yeah, with Stargate, I think if they'd have actually got away from this Stargate Command plan, if they'd have got out of this idea of this like mini streaming service that they got so focused on, it could have been good. Are you still getting blood? Are you still giving blood, Harris? Are you still giving your magic hair blood? It's getting much. I need to inject some in my face so I can grow a beard. This, a week's growth. I'm the least hairy person that's ever lived. Did everybody see Stormy's thing that he's not very well? He's got an infection in his bone, and he decided to put a picture of his leg swollen and looked painful. But that man has no leg hair. I've got more leg hair than him. That was all I was thinking about. And we kept joking that he said a bone infection, so I immediately text back that he's got a boner infection. Because us men, we can't just sympathise with people, can we? We have to make a stupid joke out of it. Because I love our Stormy. He is my, I've known him for 3 or 4 years now. Never met him in real life, and I love him. I actually genuinely consider him a very close friend. So when he's not well, we worry. But instead of just going, mate, I'm so sorry, get well, do everything the doctors say, mate, and sort of, I have to make stupid penis jokes because that's what men do. It's how we react to emotion. we poke jokes at it. Says the man with an X-wing. Yeah, I have a complicated relationship with Star Wars. Let's put it that way. And my son made that, and it's freaking amazing. I also have a little Star Trek thing, and I have my little new Stargate as well. So I'm really happy with that. I haven't put batteries in it yet, but it's like a mirror thing in it, and it's pretty cool. So that's my little presentation for you in the back. I'm like most people that I love the X-wing. I love the lightsaber. I love the noises. I love the visuals of Star Wars. Mandalorian suit and blah blah. The visuals just on and on and on. And these iconic moments as well in Star Wars, and I love them. I find the films a bit long. I find them a little boring, and I find the storylines overly simple at times. The latest trilogy, I thought, was 3 completely different movies. One was almost a comedy. It was ridiculous. But actually, I quite enjoyed them. But I feel about that trilogy almost like I feel about J.J. Abrams' Star Treks, that I quite enjoy them, but they're not really Star Wars. Like J.J. Abrams, I quite enjoy those films, but they're not Star Trek. That's not quite fair. But it's not quite the same thing, but it's not far off. We're talking same ballpark here, people. And the middle trilogy, or the original trilogy, the first trilogy chronologically, had great moments in, but on the whole, it's not the sort of film I got in my way to watch. The series, I find them. I'll always watch them. But the second, Mandalorian, I nearly stopped watching halfway through because it was such a slow burn. It was such a slow burn, I nearly stopped, but then I got into it. And by the end of the first season, I was completely on board. I was like, this is great. Second season, I actually loved almost all the second season. Boba Fett came. The 2 episodes of The Mandalorian in and Boba Fett wasn't in at all was great. The rest of the season, Ming-Na Wen. We should have done Ming-Na Wen series. It would have been much better. And then we had the 3rd season of Mandalorian. I thought it was stupid. We had Andor, and I thought, actually, even though that was, again, an insanely slow burn, I loved it, and I loved it in the same way. that I loved the movie that it prequels. I want to say Rogue One, which is one of my, again, Rogue One is too long. It should have been like half an hour shorter. It would be much better, and it's one of the best endings to a film ever. But it was, not great. It's probably my favorite of the modern Star Wars movies. Put it that way. See what everyone's saying. And Ashoka was good. On the whole, I really enjoyed Ashoka. I did struggle with the space whales. You have to have some logical leaps with Star Wars. There are some elements you just have to go, that's just happened because it needed to make the story happen. If you actually engage brain at all, and don't get me wrong, Star Trek's guilty of this a lot as well, most sci-fis. But, the space whales were a problem. And some of the other relationships going on in Ashoka were a bit of a problem. I'm not sure they 100% made sense. And that one character whose name I can't remember kept jumping her allegiances and things like this. But on the whole, I really, really enjoyed Ashoka. Mandalorian season 3. On the whole, I'll give it a B. At times, it was an F, but other times it was an A. That series, particularly in season 3, was all over the bloody place. And it shouldn't be that way. Again, I think there's this thing about overcomplicating things and making, always having one eye on what came before. Are the space whales, the Purgle space whales, original rebels? Yeah, I know. I know did. Harris particularly was furious when I said they were stupid, because he is a massive Rebels fan. And as a creature that lives in space, I have no problem with space whales, even though they look like whales. We've had creatures that live in Star Trek. Completely on board with it. Why not? The fact that those space whales went into hyperspace and stopped exactly where they needed to, that their migration was exactly along the same path that huge hyperspace ring had gone. That's the leap of logic that you need. I was even on board with the fact that she could psychically sort of talk to them, but she didn't know where they'd gone, so she didn't know where the whales needed to go. So somehow, the only thing is that maybe the whales sort of could smell the hyperspace trail and they followed them. But it didn't say that in the episode, but that would make sense. Sabine, yeah, she didn't make sense. Sabine was the character in Ashoka. She just, I don't know. She was so obsessed about getting her mate back that she screwed her. I don't know. So, yeah, I love the character of Ashoka, though, and I love the actress. She's great. She was brilliant in the good episodes of Netflix's Daredevil as well. She played the nurse, and she played a few things over the years. She's such a brilliant actress, but they cast her perfectly. And that is one of the things actually Star Wars has been really good at, better than Star Trek in the last few years, that their casting has been epic. They're so good at it. It's a bit like Warner Brothers and DC. They're amazing at casting and terrible at actually then producing a film that makes sense. But their casting has been absolutely second to none. Let's have a look. What are people saying? Doctor Who did space whales as well. See, now, again, no problem with life in space. But they did this in Star Trek in Picard season 3, and it was the worst episode. They had this nebula, and it kept going. This energy wave kept coming out, and what we then realized post was that it was supposed to be contractions, and then basically the nebula went pop, and it turned out it was an egg, and billions of these space. They look like the things from the very first Star Trek episode, which I did actually quite like. I like that little nod to that. It's a space jellyfish, basically. And it was from the Encounter at Farpoint episode when and I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the Encounter at Farpoint, there's this space, and it can create anything it wants, but it turns out it's a life form. And when it then turns back into its normal life form, it turns out it looks like a big space jellyfish. Again, a logical leap, because even if that only ever happened every 100 million years or so, surely we would have seen evidence of a nebula just going pop and loads of space babies coming out of it. And also, where were they? So where were the eggs? They were flying around there, flying faces and everything. At no point do they see anything. Oh, so no, made no sense. The space whales, again, just a Rosario Dawson. Thank you very much, sir. Yes, she's fantastic. But I've never seen her in bad in anything. She's fantastic. Is it really the 20th anniversary of that already? God, I'm old. 20th anniversary of SGA's Pilot Rising this year. It's 20 years since Stargate Atlantis was premiering, which means then it's 15 years since we lost it. 13 years this year since we lost Universe. It's a long time, guys. Not enough writers are grounded in real science anymore. Pete, that's an interesting point. I think you can argue Star Trek's always struggled with actual science, and it is still science fiction. So we got to give it a fairness. There is a big fiction word there. I've argued this with other stuff before, though. Science is in the sentence as well, though. So, there should be that science. And Star Trek, I bitch. I really do complain when the science is just wrong in science fiction, like when they travel through a black hole to travel somewhere, or they get with the J.J. Abrams, the first movie, they got the black hole thing right and then horribly wrong. So if you've got a black hole, in theory, you can time travel because time slows down as you get closer. Gravity increases, your mass increases, time slows down, time dilation. But then, and then that is why the Vulcan vessel, the Vulcan science vessel, and Spock came out years before the Romulan vessel. So, but then we see the Romulan vessel actually travel through what they describe as a black hole. Now, come on, it just doesn't make any sense. Warp drive has become there's the Aubier drive, which is basically you take the mass of something about the size of Jupiter and push it down to the size of a marble, and that creates so much gravity, the gravitational force, that you can then distort space-time, and you can actually distort space. So instead of traveling faster than the speed of the light, what you actually do is sort of create a fake wave that you ride along, and you pull where you're going towards you, and you push where you're going away from you, and you can go and you can beat speed of light. An engineer has actually said it's gone from being theory to an engineering problem. So we know exactly how to do it. We just don't know how to do it. So we know what to do, not how. So it's an engineering problem. So it is in theory possible. Don't get me started on the Kelvin timeline and science accuracy. They made the Enterprise water powered. I'm just saying, it was hydroelectric. That ship, the Enterprise in the J.J. Abrams movies, got massive refits because the way the warp drive works was completely different in all three films. Never mind that the ship was actually different. Why did they do that? Why did they redesign it? Why is the Enterprise different in all three films? It makes no sense. They did that a little bit with the Enterprise E, in like between First Contact and the movie that I tried to block from my memory because I want to pretend it didn't happen. Insurrection. See, I blocked it. I'm blocking it really well, so that I almost forgot the name of it for a second. The Enterprise E does change slightly, but it's so slight, unless you actually know. And it was basically a thing between, I can't remember if it was First Contact and then Insurrection. They had a model, a real model for the first movie, but then they went fully digital in the second movie. So there was some slight differences. That you wouldn't know. You can tell with the J.J. Abrams movies. One of the changes, this just shows how little J.J. Abrams gives a shit about Star Trek. They wanted the neck in the saucer section to be longer and thinner, so that when those enemy vessels that could cut through, when they cut through the neck and the saucer section and the drive section break apart, they wanted it to look more fragile, so they elongated the neck and made it thinner. Do they not know, Star Trek fans? Do they not know that that is the sort of thing that really, really annoys us? That is the sort of thing that winds Star Trek fans right up when they change things like that for no good reason. We buy technical manuals for these things. That's why J.J. Abrams has no clue about Star Trek fans. He knows how to make a visually interesting movie, but he has no clue about Star Trek fans. And somebody that isn't a geek for it shouldn't be allowed anywhere bloody near the franchise. If you think that changing the design of the Enterprise just because you visually want something to look right, shouldn't be allowed it. Bullshit. It's pretty bad. Sorry guys, I'm a bit bunged up. Got a bit of a head cold. So it's movie material, but episode of the week material, and I would give you that. It's like to be fair, it would have been a pretty good double episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. I've never really thought about it like that, and yes, actually, it probably would have done. I could see that being a really interesting double episode. What was the TNG episode with the Borg? It was the last time we saw Law. I do know what it was called. It would have been season 6 or 7, probably 7. It had a similar feel to it, like that did, to be honest. And yeah, Insurrection would have made quite an interesting episode, a double episode. It's not a movie. Might have been Descent. Yeah, the film with Hugh. The one with Hugh. Descent, part 1 and 2. Thank you. I think Insurrection had a sort of similar sort of feel to it like that. But I think by the time we got to Descent, they were spending proper money on Star Trek, so that those TNG episodes felt more cinematic than Best of Both Worlds maybe did. But Best of Both Worlds is obviously a million times better. Yeah, I think Kurtzman's the same. It's style over substance with both of them. Abrams is, and don't remember, Kurtzman is Abrams' bloody, I was going to say negligee. Is his negligee. Is his protege. Remember, Kurtzman worked on the J.J. Abrams movies. That's why we saw the abomination, which was the Klingons in the first series of Discovery, because he drew on that from the J.J. Abrams movies and brought it into the series. And then we had these plasticine Klingons. Creepy Klingons. It should never have been allowed. But that is, again, a perfect example, and thank you, Colin, of they shouldn't be allowed anywhere near it because they don't respect the show. And if you don't respect the show, and if you're more worried about it looking pretty than actually making sense and being loyal to the fans and everything else, then you shouldn't be allowed anywhere near that thing. Yeah. I've just done Akira adaptations for Leo. So yeah, yes, I know they have, yeah. Mark Ferguson, Hawk Ostby with the team that they're trying to do, Penguin and Parker. They're trying to create a production company. They hired a bunch of new people about 6 months ago. They're trying to create a little empire. They will not be doing one project at a time. They're going to be doing 3 or 4 different projects at a time. That's what they're trying to build. They're trying to build a proper production company. So think about, they're looking at things like Skydance, and they want to do that sort of level of work. You think about Seth Rogen and his production company, where he's got 3 or 4 different things going on at once. That's what they want to do with partners, in partnership with other people. But that's what they're trying to do. Yes, Harris. Yes, we did. My understanding, the bulk of it is, I've only spoken to one person about this, but my understanding is the bulk of it is going to be Prime. Prime Video is going to be a lot of it, and it's not going to be a massive move on the MGM and Prime, because they're shifting. They've shifted a lot of the priority already over to cinema and movies. So they've already done a lot of the work, but there's a lot of things that they were doing before that they're not anymore, and it's easier and quicker just to make people redundant. It shouldn't be, but it is. I haven't read any or I haven't listened to any of those in a while, but I will find out, because they are really, really good. Yep. Mark Ferguson, Hawk Oates wrote Iron Man. They also wrote that movie, Children of Men. They wrote Children of Men as well, and did some of the development work. So yeah, they've both got. I think that might just be Mark Ferguson, though. Might not have been Hawk Oates, but generally, but they're supposed to be doing 4 or 5 different projects, but Mark Ferguson is ones that wants to do Stargate. That will be his baby. So there'll be lots of other projects going on. I know it's being produced. I know it's coming. I'm not sure when. I didn't see a question. Sorry, Colin. I get a lot of comments. I'm sure you're sure. So I'm sure you know, but it can be quite difficult to keep up. My understanding was it was. I know it's delayed because of the strikes, but I think filming had already started. But yes, it will be the final season, which will be a shame. The first season of Resident Alien was so good, but the second season wandered a little bit, but then the third season came back really strong. It's really, really good. The Enraged Klingon. Any word on SG? How much can I say? Right. There has been a little bit of movement on Stargate. But I don't want to talk about it too much, because I'm not sure. There's basically 2 possibilities going on at the moment, and I don't want to talk about it too much because I'm not sure which way they're going to go. And I don't want to disappoint you guys by saying one thing and then it, happens. I know a lot of people are getting quite irritated by Amazon's, thing. I feel like sometimes I get blamed because of Amazon's, keep changing their mind and things. But there is 2 possibilities about an announcement in the next 6 months. Put it that way. And one is very one or both of these things is going to happen. It will happen. It's just when. But San Diego Comic-Con is what we're going to be looking at. What we're going to be looking for. It's just whether it'll be an announcement or whether they'll just turn that into a bit of a Stargate event. That's the question at the moment. My understanding is the same, basically, we've said for the last 18 months, that Amanda Tappin and Michael Shanks have had conversations, but they're not allowed to talk about it. And those conversations have been very limited. But it's more along the lines of, if we were to do this, what would you be, and that is very possible. They know who they want to be the main star, but they haven't signed on. And apparently it does look like there is a director. But I can't say any more than that. So we have to leave it at that. I can't say more. That's already me saying way too much. Rocky, I did a video on it yesterday. So that's happening. The script is done. We know that. That's been confirmed by Patrick himself. The movie will begin filming. My understanding is it'll be by the end of this year. They'll start filming. It'll be on our Paramount Plus by the autumn of next year, and it'll be followed very closely by Legacy. Basically, that's my understanding. The filming of Legacy and the Picard movie will overlap with each other, and there's going to be elements of both within the movie. We're going to see Legacy crew in the movie, apparently, and then that will kickstart Legacy, and that's the plan currently. So, and Jonathan Frakes will be directing. So there you go. Got to respect the sources. Watch Wolfpack. It's actually quite good. It's actually all right, but I might be slightly in love with Sarah Michelle Gellar a little bit. So I might be, leaning that way because I love her. And anybody says anything bad about her, I will be angry. But guys, I am going to say good evening. I am going to go and watch an episode of season 5 of Yellowstone because my God, that's a good TV show. And it makes me want to be more manly. I'm not manly enough. I do too much like cooking and cleaning and things. I need to start like punching people and stuff more often and being like manly and riding horses. I hate horses, but I could get a motorbike. That's similar. So I'm going to go do that. Thank you so much for having a chat with us. Guys, again, you're amazing and keep it in the, keeping me going in there, even though you distract me sometimes and you know who. Yeah, I've got a head cold. I get them all the time. I get a sinus problem. I was always bunged up. But I will survive. Thank you, Conundrum. Good night, everybody. Coca! And yes, Bob, you always wind me up. Distract me. Anyway, what's wrong with horses? There's nothing wrong with them. They're just really big. Scare me a little bit. I've never been on a horse, so this it's an unknown entity to me. But my God, they're beautiful. I go walking in the Shropshire Hills by where I live sometimes. I go hiking over there, and there are wild horses on there. They're only ponies, really. Watching them running, it's amazing. It's amazing, and they're absolutely beautiful. I keep hoping Wolf will get pulled up by HR. But yes, thank you so much, guys. Have an amazing couple of days. Tomorrow's video is going to be about Tron 3. And then on Friday, I've done another video. And honestly, I can't remember what it's about. So look forward to that. That'll be out in the next couple of days. Have fun. Stay safe, as always. And, subscribe and do all those things if you're new to the channel. Speak to you later, guys.